Hey there, Matt Hamilton, author of Through Travel and Error, Confessions of an Asylum-Seeking Canadian. Welcome back to my online readings. This week's chapter 26, is called The Email. Last week's chapter was on the philosophical side. This one's a little bit more on the personal side. Dear son, have your friends arrived yet? You must be very excited to see them after all this time. I know that they are excited to see you in your new home. Your father and I are very happy that you have found a beautiful place in South Africa and that you are surrounded by good people who care for you. However, on a sad note, I need to tell you that Grandma, my mom, has been diagnosed with cancer of the uterus. Honey, she has lived a long life and she has expressed no desire to ride off in the sunset, in her words, going through chemotherapy, being sick and confined to a hospital bed fighting for who knows how long. She would rather die quickly and gracefully. Having said that, this will most likely be her final Christmas. Sweetie, I know that you are very happy where you are in South Africa, but you might consider coming home for the holidays. I know that your grandmother would be ecstatic to see you. Your father, brother, and I have missed you dreadfully as well. Please give it some thought. I'm sorry to have to be the bearer of bad news, but please don't let it spoil what will be an amazing time with your friends. Missing you very much. Love, Mom. Yeah, I don't like emails. I'm actually not a fan of computers, period. And part of the reason why I don't like emails is I find them quite impersonal, and that is a perfect example of how they were. But you know what? I've always been very close with my family, and I decided that I should go home. I've been in South Africa for 20 months, and yeah, this was Grandma. I had a chance to say goodbye properly. So I booked a flight home. I had an onward flight to London, so I wasn't going to be staying, so I didn't have any of those concerns. And to make leaving Simpson much easier, my two best friends, Russell and Woody, arrived and spent 3 weeks with me, hanging out, having a blast. So I was actually looking forward to going home, and that was until I got another email from Mom. Dear son, both your father and I are extremely excited about your decision to come home. We have both missed you dreadfully. However, before you arrive, you should be aware that things will be a little different when you get here. Your father and I are no longer together. We have separated, and I have moved to Florida, where I'm sharing accommodation with another man. The weather here is 80 degrees, and we are playing golf every day. I do hope that you can keep an open mind and try not to take sides on the situation until you've heard all the facts. Please try and remember to incorporate some of your newfound calmness and do not let anger dictate your emotions. The man who I'm living with is very kind and gentle. I hope you can understand. Your father, brother, and I will be at the airport when you arrive. Love always, Mom. I felt as though I'd been kicked in the nuts. I read the email again slowly. I made sure I hadn't misread a sentence or overlooked the punchline. To my shocked disbelief, the email read exactly the same. I felt physically ill. My mind was racing with thoughts of denial and embarrassment. I didn't know which was more disturbing, my mom choosing to inform me of the family's disintegration via email, or her thinking I would give a rat's ass that she was playing golf in a hot and sunny Florida. The weather was 80 degrees. Had my mom gone insane? Did she honestly think it mattered to me that she was getting a tan? The only messages I could ascertain from Mom's email was that she and Dad had split up, and worst of all, they had lied to me in the process. The next chunk of time was a bit disjointed. I remember turning off the computer and attempting to get the hell out of the crowded office before I broke down. I recall crying uncontrollably as I ran past Woody, down the hill and to the solitude and relative safety of my cottage. I didn't stop to talk, for I knew that my tears were just clearing a path for the anger and rage that was about to blow off the scale. Although it had been over 2 years since I had cracked with anger, the acidic taste of rage is not easily forgotten, and it overwhelmed me now. It choked me with its bitter flavor. By the time I arrived at my cottage, I was literally growling and frothing at the mouth. Every muscle tensed. Every vein throbbed. I searched for something to destroy. I picked up the wooden lounge chair from the sun deck, which weighed a hefty 35 kilograms. Its only fault in the universe was being an inanimate object in my warpath. And in a moment of rage-induced strength, I hip-launched the heavy bastard deep into the bush. I let out a primordial yell. I stormed into the cottage where I kicked, punched, overturned, headbutted, and drop-kicked every piece of non-living matter that I could see. Now, I really did crack. I mean, I snapped, broke everything. Sadly, Woody was actually getting ready to go to the airport at that precise moment. He came to say goodbye, and through tears I said, obviously I can't go with you. And I basically secluded myself in the cottage for a day and just sat down, smoked loads of dope, and tried to get my head around what had happened. And I mean, part of the reason was my parents, they were madly in love when I left home. There was zero indicator that there were problems or ever going to be problems. The next day, Russell braved my rage and came in, and I sat him down and said, look, buddy, I need to get some things off my chest and say them out loud. I hope you can sit and listen to it. And bless his soul, he did. He's a really good friend, and he had nothing to say. He was actually quite in shock as well. He knew my parents very, very well, and like all my friends, was in complete shock that they had split up. Yeah, now I had to decide what I was going to do next. My one thought was to tell my parents to go fuck themselves, but that would hurt other people, my brother and grandma specifically. So I slept on it and woke up the next day, and you know what, I decided to send my own email. I realized that it was possible to convey the most heartfelt emotions via email, and that there are times when communication without conversation is actually a good thing. Mom and Dad, it's safe to say that I'm not handling the news of your past letter well. In fact, I'm having an impossible time. I can't remember the last time I cried as hard as I did the other day after Mom's email came through. I've never felt so hurt in all my life. How could you drop a bomb like that and then casually talk about the weather? Are you mad? The emotions I experienced that day reached all-time maximums. I was devastated, hurt, embarrassed, and angry. Anger doesn't even begin to describe the emotion I experienced. Why was I so mad? Because you lied to me. You haven't been honest with me for God knows how long. Half-truths and flat-out lies. And because of your lies, you have made me a liar. I have talked about how wonderful and in love my parents were, and how lucky I was to have such a great family to way too many people. It was all bullshit. Most importantly, your actions have destroyed so much that I believed in. My beliefs in honesty, commitment, love, and strength of family have all been rocked. Lines and points of no return have been crossed, and none of it was my fault. It was quite coy of you to keep your separation a secret from me until I purchased my ticket home. If it weren't for Grandma and Mike, I'd tell you to shove my ticket up your asses. I'm leaving a place that I don't want to leave, which is a place filled with love, and I am instead returning to a place of, what, home? Hardly. More like complete uncertainty and anything but love. Thanks very much for making this a shitty Christmas. Since the two of you have kept me out of your lives for so long, don't expect to hear from me until I get back to Ottawa. All I know about you, Mom, is that you're somewhere in the state of Florida. Thanks for a phone number. You asked me not to take a side, so that's the way it is. And don't, I repeat, don't pick me up at the airport. I've traveled the world for over 2 years. I'm sure I can handle Ottawa International back to Withrow Avenue. I don't want to see you after all this time and bullshit at a fucking airport. Stay away. I'll be home when I'm home. Your pissed off son. P.S. If you have never believed anything I've said, then you had better believe this. If I ever meet this motherfucking gentle cocksucker you're sharing your accommodation with, I will kill him. And I think of all the anger and death threats I uttered over the years, that one was truly sincere. I did mean it. I would have killed the bastard. Anyways, that was chapter 26. As I said, it was a little bit more on the personal side, but if you'd like to find out even more about myself and the book through Travel and Error, Confessions of an Asylum-Seeking Canadian, please visit my website, madmaddiesworld.com. And yeah, come back next week for the final chapter in this journey through the world. Until then, have a great one. Bye-bye.